actually, there's a news release that's on our website that has an online form that goes directly to St. Clair County. And if you put your damage in there, because it's going to the county, we're not
involved with it, it goes straight to them. Okay. So, and if you need some clarification, you can give us a call, try to help you. Also, if anybody is interested
to be online, you need to have that.
okay. If anybody is interested in running for any of the offices that are coming up for election next April of 2025, they have changed the filing dates. Normally, you would be able to start picking up applications in September. That has been moved up to August. We can give you the exact dates. I think, Jerry, do you remember the exact dates? It's sometime mid-August. But instead of September, now you can pick it up in 20. But filing used to be, you had till like mid-December or so to file. Your filing date is now in November. So they've moved everything up about 30 days. So if anybody's interested in that, if you call in and ask for Misty McDonald, she can go over and give you the exact dates and everything, or when they'll be available here. We have packets for anybody to be able to pick up. So I'm going to start with covering the electrical aggregation. About 12 years ago, we went together with about 30 other cities to try to get rates that were lower than what Ameren was offering at the time. Over the years, that's resulted in millions of dollars of savings. At one point in time, it was considerably below what Ameren's rates were. But about 18 months ago, Ameren dropped their rate considerably. Matter of fact, lower than what we could get under our new contracts with the electrical aggregation. The Ameren rate right now is, as you'll see up on the screen there, 8.136 cents per kilowatt. Ours under our aggregation is 12.2. It's about 50% higher. So want to make you aware of what the differences are. Now, effective in December, our aggregate rate is going to drop to 9.054. That is then going to be still a little bit higher, but it's about a 25% decrease in what we've had. And we'll be about 10% higher than the current Ameren rate. But one thing that I wanted to point out then to you is that and this is just for you, so you make a decision which way is best for you and your family on this. In the aggregation, you're not locked in for any period of time. If you decide you want to go to Ameren and you're under the electrical aggregation, you can do so at any time. No limits. Also, one of the things that we have with the new contract that we've just got that gives us that lower rate, we can negotiate now every 6 months instead of having to wait for the full end of the year. In case rates start dropping, we can go in there and try to negotiate the rate along with the other cities that are involved. Why we're not sure how this is going to impact you, Ameren has just proposed a $17 a month increase for its Missouri users. We don't know what effect that's going to be in Illinois, or if there even will be an effect. It could go up, it could be down. Ameren normally will change their rates in the fall, which is usually in October. They do it twice a year, usually in June and October. If you decide to go with Ameren, just be aware that Ameren will have you locked in for 12 months before you can get out of the contract with them. It's not saying what's best for anybody. It's up to you to decide what is best for your family, but did want to share that information with you so that you can make the best decision for you, because it's flexible and probably if I were to say you should go one way, it'll go the other way, and if I say go the other way, it'll go the opposite way. So just wanted to lay all the information out, and if anytime you've got some questions on that, please feel free to give myself or Sandy, our finance director, a call, Sandy Evans, and we'll be more than happy to bring you up to date with where things are at on it or what changes we know of or anything like that. But that's what we know at this point, and I just wanted to bring you up to date with that on it. Walter, do you know anything new, anything additional on that?
Just that when it is, so when Ameren comes up with new rates in October, then you'll have the ability to make a decision on whether you think it's best to go with Ameren or to go with the aggregation program. Since we're starting a new aggregation program, everyone will be notified about the new deal as it comes into December. If you have currently opted out of aggregation and are with Ameren, you would need to do it again because this will be a new contract. So even if you've already opted out, according to the rules of the contract with aggregation, you would need to do it again, but there'll be a letter that states about how to do that.
So that, yes, Ross?
Just so some people have asked me anyway, why they have to opt out versus opting in, and it's because 80-something%
Yes.
of the people stay with the
Yes.
aggregation, so just from an administrative
Correct.
standpoint, it's easier for people.
Yeah, I think at the last count, we had about 86% were with the aggregation.
Right,
something.
and it's the way municipal aggregation is structured as part of the state law to do it. It actually is pretty easy to opt out. You can call Ameren, tell them you're opting out, and
They'll switch you
they'll
over.
switch you over. So
Right. Okay. Any other questions on that? Thanks, Ross. Okay. With that said, Walter, I'm going to turn it over to you.
You gonna keep me up
And you're
here?
going to cover Forward 50 and
All
where
right.
we're at.
Well, if you don't know me, my name's Walter Denton. I'm the city administrator here. I've been here going on 22 years with the city of O'Fallon. We're going to talk about Forward 50. This is a project that we've talked a lot about over the last year, and I do have some handouts, or just one handout actually, but so I can put one on each side. I don't know, probably don't have enough for everybody, but if you're not familiar with the Forward 50 plan, we received a planning grant about a year and a half ago to do a comprehensive study on Highway 50, basically from exit 14 at the interstate all the way to Scott Troy Road, and talk about ways that we could make the road better for motorists and ease of travel back and forth, as well as what we could do to make it more friendly for pedestrians and for people on bicycles, and ways that we could improve the corridor for economic development and getting some more businesses along the way, as well as improving traffic and congestion problems. The final report was completed within the last week, and so it's about 300 pages long. I didn't bring that as a handout for you, but this is the abridged version. It has about, I don't know, probably, 10 or 15 projects that are infrastructure projects that they recommended for the city to implement for the project. We asked, we had residents and elected officials and staff and our planning commission members to rate all of the projects so that we could find out which ones our residents wanted us to do first. And so what you have in your hands here and what is on the screen here is the top 5 projects that were listed, that were voted on by all the residents and elected officials. And so we're going to go through these real quickly, just to talk about what these are. This is a long-range plan. Even these top 5 won't be accomplished immediately. Some of them are going to take a lot of planning and money, for that matter. And so, yes, ma'am.
What's long range mean? 2 years, 5 years, 10 years,
20, 25.
25 for a roundabout?
Oh, well, I meant total with all the projects that, to do all the projects that are listed. Now, for each one, it depends on funding. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. You mentioned the roundabout. That is one of them. That's number 2 on the list. Is the suggestion was a roundabout on Highway 50 and Lincoln Avenue. Roundabouts are expensive, and one of the challenges with Highway 50 is that it is not a road that is owned by the city of O'Fallon. It's actually a state road through the Illinois Department of Transportation. So any projects that are done along this road would have to be done in conjunction with them and with their permission and according to their standards. So that brings one of the challenges to it. But we are right now planning on developing some strategies to get the project started this year. So what we're doing about the roundabout project is the very first thing is to look at the need and confirm whether this is the best type of project. So we're going to start a traffic analysis fairly soon in this fall that'll collect some data on that and work on an actual design. What's in the plan is more like a kind of just a architectural rendering, but getting into the engineering and determining what's the best way for the project. That's what we're going to be doing first. So we're going to have a more detailed presentation to the Community Development Committee next Monday, which will start at 6 o'clock. If you want to come and see some more about that, because we're going to talk about what are some of the things that we're going to be doing moving forward now that this plan is done. And the first one of the ones was with the roundabout, we're going to start a traffic study. The next, we'll move back to number 1, which is shared use path on the north side of Highway 50. There is not a continuous sidewalk along Highway 50. If you've driven along it, you notice that it kind of stops and starts and stops and starts. But what we would like to see is a wider, like 10-foot wide shared use path that can be used for bicycles and for pedestrians. And the recommendation is to put that on the north side of the road, the entire stretch of Highway 50 from exit 14 to Scott Troy Road. And then number 5 is related, is on the south side of the road to have at least a regular sidewalk that goes all the way through. Because right now we don't have either. And one of the things that we're going to look at right away is the stretch from Community Park east to Scott Troy Road, where the McKendree Recplex is, because that area does not have any sidewalks or paths, and with the high school there and the park there, we feel it's important for there to be a way for pedestrians and bicycles to get to the park and to get to the high school. We have applied for a grant in the past to get a sidewalk from like the high school to the Country Oaks subdivision, and we were not able to successfully get a grant from the state on that. So now that we have this plan and we have some other designs, we feel that maybe we could be successful this time. So one of our things we're going to do right away in this year is to prepare for another grant application to have the shared use path from Community Park all the way to where the Recplex is, and then also look at trying to fill in some of the gaps on the sidewalks that are kind of in that area between the school, high school, and the community park. So let's see, what's next? Number 3, I'm going out of order here. Number 3 is a new streetscape for Lincoln Avenue from Highway 50 to downtown. That's the area that we're on right now, basically from like 2nd Street, 1st Street, going all the way to Highway 50. So in addition to Highway 50, they looked at this corridor of Lincoln Avenue as a connector between the downtown and the Highway 50 corridor. So they have some ideas on making a wider shared use path on the west side, on this side of the City Hall side of Lincoln Avenue, as well as some streetscaping, which have some nicer street lighting and using some kind of a theme, a common theme to connect downtown with Highway 50, which would also extend to State Street, having a streetscape where you maybe have some shared use paths so that pedestrians and bikes will be more comfortable being on State Street, and then tying all that together as it goes down to Highway 50. The last project that we're going to look at is the pedestrian median crossing at Community Park. This is like right around the Dairy Queen or so, having a crosswalk to Community Park. One of the things we heard from residents is it's really hard to get across the street if you're on the south side, and particularly with the restaurants there. And if when Starbucks opens, there's going to be a lot of interest in going back and forth. And so we wanted to find a way to make it safer for pedestrians to get across. And so the recommendation is to have a what they call a pedestrian refuge, where you cross one lane of traffic, and then in that third lane, the turn lane, there'd be a concrete median where you can stand and wait and not feel like you have to run across all 3 lanes at one time. You can cross one lane, wait, and then cross the next lane as it becomes available. So that is something we're going to look at engineering and see what the design would be for that, and get some of that design work ready for funding for the next year. Yes, ma'am.
Well, you're talking about this pedestrian crossing down there, okay, what about on the other side, by Marie Schaefer, there's a lot of homes through there, how do we cross the street? Because if you have a roundabout, that's continuous traffic, so how do we cross? Walking, on a bike, whatever, we have to work our way all the way down to the park, cross there, and then come back if you're going.
Well, there will be crosswalks where the roundabout is.
How many lanes is that?
I don't think, it's not going to change any lanes.
Just 2, like it is now?
Yeah, so it won't increase any lanes. There were some recommendations on what to do on Marie Schaefer. Jeff Taylor, who's our Public Works Director, he's getting up over here because you're asking detailed questions about road design, which I'm not qualified to answer. So maybe Jeff can provide some insight.
So this entire plan is available on the city website, and it really breaks it down into segments of the whole corridor. Marie Schaefer area being one of those, and on that area, that does call for another crosswalk in that area also, similar to how Walter described with a median in the center for like a refuge area. It just didn't make the top 5, but it is in the plan, long-term.
Yeah.
I want to point out that on the top 5, if they want to look at it on the website, it goes into a little bit more detail on all the things that are involved with making each one of those various steps you have to go through.
Yeah, near the back of the report, I believe it's like on 189, page 189 or so, because I have it bookmarked on my my book so I can get to it. It goes into more detail on exactly what each one of the top 5 projects looks like and what are some of the steps. These are the ones that the residents and the elected officials said were important, and so we're preparing plans to move forward that on this year. Now, none of them are going to be constructed in the next year. These things take time to do engineering and get funding, but we at least want to show progress and that we're doing implementation. There are some things that we can do this year. We put money in this year's budget anticipating that when this report is completed, that we will be able to start some of the first things. And maybe, Jeff, you can talk about timelines and what it takes to do design work and then secure funding and kind of, I know you can't promise dates, but what that kind of entails in terms of
Yes.
getting a project from idea stage to completion.
Yeah, just any of these projects alone, you're looking at almost a year's worth of engineering just to design it, to develop sets of plans, to bid it. But even prior to that, we're going to be applying for grants to hopefully fund some of these. And those go in different cycles. It may be every other year they're available, maybe once a year. So what this is going to be driven, one, by design and what we're able to do, but another by funding mechanisms. A lot of times we won't move forward with even the design until we have a grant in place. And reason being is some of these grants pay for the engineering, but if you do it up front, you can't get reimbursed that money back. So we're very proactive, and with this plan in place, I think it's going to give us a step up in applying for these grants. This was a project that was done in partnership with East West Gateway. They're our local metropolitan planning organization. They are also the ones that most these federal dollars, these grants fund and flow through. So they're going to be more inclined to hopefully fund our projects, being that it's part of a project report they were involved in.
Okay, I got a question.
Sure.
You said you had to get approval from the state for the roundabout. Will you have to get also with the county, since Lincoln belongs to the county?
Yes.
South Lincoln belongs to the county currently. Yeah.
That'd be fine.
Yes, sir.
I guess it mentions this on the website, but before I look at that, the crosswalk at the park. We got like a button a pedestrian can push and it's gonna cause a traffic stoppage, like.
Yes, so.
That is currently how it's proposed in the plan. It's what's called a hawk system, so it is like a traffic signal that goes overhead that it would be a red light that would stop traffic. That's one option. Other options may be similar to what we have downtown here, where it's the rapid flashing beacon, where it's just lights that flash back and forth. Those aren't as effective, and with Highway 50 and the traffic and the speeds on it, I think completely stopping traffic is going to be the best.
Really envision an actual stoplight there.
Well, so again, these hawk systems almost act as stoplights. You press a button, there's a signal hanging over the road with a red light that makes you stop, and you're required to stop for a pedestrian to cross. So, yeah.
So anyway, we're excited about the completion of the plan. We've been working on it for about a year, so we've been dealing with this for a long time, but I realize there's a lot of people who this will be the first time they've seen it. But it will be literally a roadmap for us for going in for the next 5, 10, 15 years of things that we can do to help improve Highway 50, since it really is kind of the spine that goes through the entire community. We want it to look nice. We want it to have a common theme so that people, when they come into town, will be impressed and know that it's, this is a quality community. And we want it to be safe for all uses of it, whether it's relieving congestion or providing better ways for people to walk and ride their bikes around town. So.
Jeff, you may want to touch upon, we had about 15 to 20 meetings with public, with business community, with schools, and so forth. Do you
Yeah, the mayor just mentioned, I think in total, we hosted 6 different public meetings on it. In addition, we had stakeholder meetings where we met with other members of the community and different organizations to discuss how this project could be implemented and how it would impact businesses, schools, you name it, that are along this corridor. So very involved process. Like Walter said, it's been really over the course of this last year. And we've got a good document that's come out of it. Now it's time to figure out how to implement it. So.
Yeah, if you were at one of our open houses, we had maps all over the room and on the tables, and people were marking on things. And so it was really an interactive process. We had a lot of good feedback from residents. And so we're proud of the result. We think that it's something that's usable and workable for us, and will be successful for us to make the community better. So.
Any questions on that before we move forward into some construction updates?
All right, we're going to keep Jeff up here to talk about road construction.
Deal. You're right, Cameron. So if anyone was here at the last town hall meeting in April, I did an overview of all the different construction that we have planned this summer. The mayor asked me to kind of recap some of the larger ones that are in the works. Largest project right now that's the most impactful for people getting around town would be the intersection improvements that are happening at Central Park and Hartman Lane. So that just got underway a couple weeks ago. If you've been out that way, you've noticed that a portion of Central Park Road is closed. So what's happening there is Hartman Lane is being widened to add an additional southbound left turn lane to turn from Hartman on to Central Park. That's an area that was noted as very congested. We were able to acquire a federal grant through Congestion Mitigation Air Quality Funds. Also, through the state of Illinois, Rebuild Illinois Fund, we were able to acquire funding for this. So in total, it's right around a $2.5 million project, none of which is really being funded by the city. It's either the federal dollars or state that we were able to acquire. As I mentioned, it just kicked off a couple weeks ago. The anticipated completion date is mid-November, so right before Thanksgiving is what we're shooting for. During that time, like I mentioned, though, there will be a detour that'll be in place. So Central Park between Hartman and roughly the Marcus Theater will be closed. So your detour that you'd have to take will be Park Plaza. It's marked. There's signage to denote which way to turn. Also knowing that some of those businesses on Central Park will have only, their access will be past that detour. We put up signage to indicate how to get to certain businesses like the movie theater, Cyberg's Hot Shots, Saki in there. So, but it'll be a great project when it's done, really help with congestion on Hartman Lane. It'll help out also with, if anyone drives that way, when you're heading Highway 50 and turning down Hartman Lane, if you're making those lefts off of Highway 50, it's 2 lanes that then merge down to 1. That will be eliminated. What ends up happening is your inside left turn essentially becomes a left turn onto Central Park. So have a lot less conflicts occurring there, just make it function much better than it currently does. So again, that's underway now, anticipated to be completed towards the end of November. So bear with us while we make a mess over there for a while. Does anyone have any questions on that project or comments? Yeah, Herb? Yeah, Hartman Lane will remain open at all times. If anything, it's a lot easier to go down Hartman Lane because there's no longer a stoplight at Central Park. So it'll be free-flowing north and southbound at all times. You'll still have access to all the other side streets off of there other than Central Park. So. Okay, the other one, this isn't in construction at this point in time, but wanted to talk a little bit about our Pierce Boulevard traffic calming, and grab some papers I had printed out here. This has been a topic of discussion for about the last year now. A very comprehensive study was done that found roughly half the amount of traffic on Pierce Boulevard is cut-through traffic. So we knew that issue existed. The next portion of it was speeds, looking at the speed, determining where it falls relative to the posted speed limit. So what we did back in September, we went out and grabbed some baseline conditions to just figure out how the road functions as it was at the current time. And we got volume numbers, but then we also got speeds. And it's kind of hard to see this, so I'll kind of read it off where we were at. Essentially what it found is your 85th percentile speed, so 85% of the traffic out there is somewhere between 31, 29 miles per hour. 95th, you get up to 34, 32 miles per hour, and that's eastbound, westbound. The highest speed we saw out there at one section was 57 miles per hour, just west of Bristol Cone. So obviously, speed's a big concern out there. So we were working with a traffic consultant trying to come up with ideas on how we can do some traffic calming. So we were able to come up with some temporary measures to deploy to just test to see how they function. The two devices we tried, we put in temporary speed humps out on Pierce Boulevard, just west of Walnut. There were 2 speed humps installed. In addition, we installed raised delineators, which kind of emulate curb bump outs at intersections to try to narrow the road slightly to see how those work. And those are actually still out there today. So those were put in early May, and then so the week of May 13th, we had both in place, the speed humps, the delineators. We grabbed data from the same locations we did back in September to really compare them to see how they worked and how they functioned. And what we found was, our goal is to reduce speeds for sure, but if we can even deter cut-through traffic would be great. What we found, we didn't get a lot of traffic reduction. It was somewhat around 10% in that time period, but had a significant reduction in speed with the speed humps installed. So in some cases, we were looking at upwards of a 60% decrease in speeds. So I talked about the highest speed when we did the baseline at 57. When we had the speed humps in place, the highest speed right at one of the speed humps or just adjacent to it was only 28 miles per hour. So anyone who lives out there probably noticed the reduction in speed when those were in place. So they definitely worked well. So we collected that data for a week. Then we removed the speed humps just to see how the delineators would work on their own, just those being out there. And what we found is the traffic volume kept decreasing, actually. It went down even 20%. And I want to say maybe that's just people realizing, one, the speed humps, the delineators were there and started finding alternate routes. So we did still see a reduction in volume the week of May 20th. However, what kicked back up was the speeds. As soon as we eliminate those speed humps, we were back up to really only getting a reduction from the baseline data of somewhere around 5 to 6%. And actually, someone must have been really happy we removed the speed humps because the max speed then was 67 miles per hour. So they must have been upset that they had to slow down that week before. So with this data now, we've kind of determined, talked with our consultant. I think a combination of trying to narrow the road to slow down traffic, but then also speed humps mixed in is really the best course of action moving forward. At the same time, we're going through a bike master plan, and this Pierce corridor has been identified. We have the trail that's on Green Mountain Road. There's talk of, with the bike plan, possibly coming down Lincoln with a trail that would connect up to the one that we just talked about on Highway 50. So this Pierce is another great corridor, and so what we're planning on moving forward with and meeting with a consultant to put together a proposal would be to do what's called a road diet, where you narrow down the road, and in this case, the intent would be to narrow down the entire length of Pierce that's in the residential area, pull a curb in, still allow parking on both sides, still allow two-way traffic, but move in far enough where you can install a shared use path along the side of it for pedestrians, for bicyclists, that would connect you from Greenmount over to Lincoln and onward. So in addition to that, it would be strategically placing, if I had to guess, probably roughly 5 speed humps along the Pierce corridor. And then in addition, also probably having to take a look at White Oak to the north. White Oak, White Pine. White Pine, all right, I knew it was one of those. White Pine, because our fear is if we slow down that traffic on Pierce, they're just gonna jump right up there and use it. So that is where we stand at the moment. The plan right now is to develop a scope, hire a consultant to start engineering on it. The goal would be to spend this winter in design and look into construction next year. Really, it's going to be done in conjunction with a lot of other stuff that's happening out here. What you see on this drawing are the two lakes. We're in the middle of a drainage study right now in this whole area. So it's going to be a huge comprehensive project once it gets going. It's going to improve drainage in the area. It's going to do the bike trail like I mentioned. It's going to put in the speed humps. Probably looking at overlaying all the roads, not just Pierce, but all the roads south of Pierce, Ponderosa, all that area. So very large, very comprehensive project that's currently in the works. I think at the moment we're looking to have an engineering agreement that will come before the Public Works Committee in August. So we're just developing the scope now and putting that together. Yes, sir.
So we know, based on what you said, the speed humps work. Why can't you put those two back in that? Because they didn't work.
Yeah.
I mean, are they rented or?
Yeah, no, so what we have, those are temporary, they were bolt down. When we put in anything permanent, it'll be full concrete that's paved. You know, where we were at right now with those, Pierce is a snow route, so we got to keep that in mind. Now, we're a ways out from snow coming, right? But there is quite a bit of work and time that goes involved in those, and they really, my fear is how well they'll hold up long-term, but, you know, it's something we can consider and discuss. I know the delineators, I think we're getting ready to pull those up. I don't see them really doing a whole lot out there at this time without the added speed humps. But again, we're really, if everything works out design-wise, we're less than a year away from seeing some construction going out there, so. Yes, sir.
Question, east of Walnut to Lincoln, there's a long stretch there. Would there be speed humps or traffic calming measures in place there? Because there's been a lot of focus on the Meyer side and not as much on that eastern side.
Yes, so yeah, it would go all the way to Lincoln. And really what we did, we had 2 of those temporary speed humps, so we could only deploy it in a small area. So we put it on the west side to start. What I would envision is having at least probably 3 speed humps east of Walnut before you get to Lincoln. And again, the road narrowing and the trail would be the entire length of Pierce from Lincoln to where it transitions to the office and commercial space.
You would just get that trail to be on the north or south side of Pierce. There's already a sidewalk on one side and not sidewalk on the other side.
We're looking on the south side, because part of the development plans for the Meyer, for the commercial site, is they're required to put a trail on the south side when they go in. So we'll connect onto that and continue it east. Yeah.
I'm just curious on some of the streets, like I live on Bristlecone, I know Ponderosa, some of the ones that go a long stretch, will there be a chance for there being speed bumps still on Bristlecone, for instance?
There is no plans to put them anywhere other than Pierce and White Pine.
The traffic's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Not yesterday, it was closed.
Yeah. Yeah.
There were kids swimming in it.
Yeah, John?
Would it be more cost effective to just put stop signs, white line for a three-way stop, down the street with another street, or just make it
Yeah.
convenient? There's no race with stop signs.
Every study you'll find is that just putting stop signs out actually increase speeds in a lot of cases. You'll have people that will stop, and then they feel, I need to speed up to make up for that time I lost. I'm going to floor it through here. And or they don't stop.
But the inconvenience of it
Yeah.
will cause it just to find a different route.
Yeah. I mean, again, everything we've studied and looked at, stop signs are not the solution to deter speeds, especially, and even traffic to that point. My office looks right out on this intersection of 3rd and Lincoln. I probably see 10 cars drive through that every day, and we have stop signs that flash at them there. So, you know. Yes.
That's my point was, when you had the speed bumps up, the
Gotcha, yeah. Yes.
I know during all the meetings we had last year, I had brought up maybe putting like, painted crosswalk signs by the stop sign on Walnut. Because driving around, almost all the other stoplight signs in town have a crosswalk or something painted. There's nothing there. I mean, I was
Yeah.
driving down there, I live on Pierce, but I was driving down there a couple of weeks ago and some guy in a big truck, we were going the speed limit, was on our butt the whole time. When we got to the stop sign on Walnut, he just zoomed around us and went right through it.
Yeah.
So you can't really see it there.
Yeah, and that's something we can consider when we get into the design. Again, the whole road's going to be resurfaced and repaved, so I think a spot right there, Walnut, Pierce, would be a good spot to put in some painted crosswalks. Yeah, yep. Yes?
I know this is about the roads and all that. Is there a way we can request that minor trucks do not come down?
Yes, so that's already in place. We've implemented an ordinance that does not allow trucks down Pierce.
8 tons or more though.
True, yes. And the way that it was designed, a lot of their exits, especially the truck one, is made to where they can only make that left out, and we've worked with them and talked on that, so that's something that we'll definitely enforce. Are they? Okay, gotcha, yep. Yes?
That same thing with the trucks, when they come around off of 50 by Casa Azteca, they turn on Walnut, turn down Nancy, come around, go down Virginia to miss the light there at Lincoln and 50. It's big trucks too. So they're waiting for
Yeah.
signs or something, you know.
I think when we put in that roundabout, that light won't be there, and they'll be able to, they won't do that any longer, hopefully. So it'll be, you don't have to stop then. It'll be,
Yeah, I know. I want to be able to pull out of the 50s. Yeah.
understood, yeah.
But I'm just saying the trucks, they do it all the time.
To avoid the light,
Because I've seen them before, coming down 50 and they turn at Casa Azteca.
yeah.
And I've seen it from my house and see where they go. They're just turning to zip around the light, or roundabout, anything to get to Shiloh.
Sure, okay, yeah. Other comments, questions that anyone has? Yes, sir.
I'm sure they do, but I don't see much of it. Does O'Fallon Police Department have any kind of priority for traffic control? Or speed?
I mean, I can't speak,
I got an answer for all this, but
yeah, maybe Walter, you can chime in on that?
Well, I know that the police department has hotspots that they look at and certain areas where if they get complaints about areas and then they instruct their patrol units to do heightened enforcement on different hotspots. Now, those change from, week to week or month to month, but, we don't have enough officers on the street at a given time where you can have an officer sit and work Pierce every day, all day, 365 days a year. That's just not practical. But, they do have and they do enhanced enforcements in different areas when they do hot spots. And I know sometime back, I think it was in the spring, they did an enhanced enforcement along Pierce for, a week or two and had some data on that. I don't know, does that answer your question?
Well, I guess, but, just random, sit out here on Third Street and watch them roll through the stop sign. I mean, stop signs are just a suggestion anymore.
Right.
And once you get a reputation for, they enforce stuff all down.
Yep.
When I was in high school, we had ancient history. They enforced coming
Yeah.
through town. We never speeded in Shiloh. I don't care if there was nobody around, but I just,
Yeah.
just random enforcement. I'm not talking about you gotta sit there all day, but just a
So that's why we felt, enforcement is good when the officer is there, but with these traffic calming measures, those are going to be there 24 hours a day. And so that's a more effective long-term solution, we believe, than just trying to get officers out there more often, which is good when they're there, but they're not there all the time. But the speed bumps will be there all the time, so.
Okay. That's really everything we plan on discussing tonight. Didn't know if anyone has anything else they wanted to add, or Mayor, if you had any wrap up here?
Yeah, I would just like to say thank you to everybody that come out. I hope the information that we shared with you was helpful. We will be holding another one in October. We do this every 3 months. And if in the meantime you have any questions on any of this, please give me a call, come on in. Be glad to sit with you and talk about it. Get with any of the department heads that are necessary to discuss whatever the subject matter is. But was the meeting worthwhile for you? Very good. I thank you all for being here, and hope to see you next October. Yes, ma'am.
I have another question. So I live right where they're putting the Myers in, and they have like 2 of those really big red sandbags covering up one of the storm drains, completely covering it. Is there a reason for that?
I'll have to look, but typically it's for erosion control. So since they're disturbing the site and there's potential for silt to run off, they'll put those in front of an inlet just to prevent any soil from getting down into it and clogging it. At times they can,
Probably when you get hit with a 7-inch rain, it doesn't help any, yes.
yeah. So that's what they're intended to do.
Okay, I thank all of you for being here, and like I said, we'll have another one in October. Thank you all very much.